Hi, I'm Jenna James. I'm here celebrating Earth Day 2021. I'm here interviewing Lindsay Kemmerling at the Kellogg Biological Station. Hi, I'm here with Lindsay at the Kellogg Biological Station. We're going to talk about what they're doing for the butterfly community in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Lindsay, if you'd like to introduce yourself and what your research is here.
Yeah, my name is Lindsay Kemmerling. I'm a PhD student in Nick Hannett's lab at Kellogg Biological Station. And I'm also the person who coordinates the academic programs. So we run undergraduate programs where students come do research or intern or take field courses at KBS.
Brilliant.
Kellogg Biological Station is Michigan State University's largest off-site educational site. So it's globally renowned for adding to the fields of ecology and evolution. It's located in Hickory Corners, which is occupied Anishinaabe land, and it's still in Kalamazoo County. There's about 12 research labs that function out of here, and we study things ranging from ecology, evolution, agriculture, conservation, and then to climate change.
We're here in what looks like a sort of barren area, but there's a lot going on underneath the surface. Lindsay, you were telling me that recently this was burned. Do you want to tell us more about the butterfly populations that you are trying to preserve here or flourish?
Yeah, so my research is focusing on increasing biodiversity, preventing the loss of biodiversity, and I focus on that in farms. So we do this by restoring habitat within farms, and that can protect things like butterflies and other insects.
What do you feel is the biggest threat to butterfly populations in North America at the moment?
We know that there's three things that are affecting butterflies and all insects in general. So first is habitat loss, second is climate change, and third is pesticides. Those are like the largest drivers of insect decline. So here we are in the long-term ecological research site. This is where I conduct research, but it's also a part of a national network of research sites. So it ranges from Puerto Rico to Alaska, and people are really studying like long-term trends in ecological processes. There's 28 sites, and we're the only one that looks at agriculture. And to be able to study these long-term trends, this was established in 1980 here at Kellogg Biological Station. This allows us to, one, get longer-term trends that you cannot get with a short experiment, but also it brings a lot of researchers together here. So people are studying all aspects of agriculture and the environment, including like soil health, biodiversity conservation, greenhouse gas emissions, carbon sequestration, also like farmer involvement and farmer adoption of conservation practices. And then so by having all of us working together in these same sites, we can really like answer big, more synthesized questions than we could alone.
What do you feel like the general public can do to involve themselves, support you?
Yeah, so Kellogg Biological Station also has parts that are open to the public. Best known is the Kellogg Bird Sanctuary. And there we have, it's one our research site, but it also has trails and then research programming for people to be involved in, like field ornithology courses or field botany courses. And all of our programming is virtual currently, so it's easier than ever to be involved. But we also have a volunteer program, which is very robust. It's on hold right now, but it will open back up, and then people can do things like help out in our native garden, help with outreach programming, and things like that.
So, as I said earlier, this is a burn site. What does that mean to the average person? You know, if you didn't know anything about a burn site.
Yeah, to restore habitats, which is a lot of what we study here. In the past, before human influence, things were naturally burned by lightning strike or having really dry landscapes, and things need to be burned in order to thrive, to hold back like woody vegetation like trees from coming up in a grassland. We burn these annually in order to kind of like simulate what they would be naturally.
And what happens after you burned it? What is the product that is created?
This will grow up to be more of like a grassland. There's still some like shrubby, woody things here that are like persisting, but it will kind of mix of grasses and flowers and plants.
In your research, is there something that has been most surprising to you or most dismaying to you?
Yes, learning about like the extent of the loss of biodiversity is very troubling. There's this part in your PhD where you have to take these exams. You kind of need like the most recent knowledge. What do we know about how much land has been destroyed by humans from natural habitat, and like what is the actual state of all these species? And well, for butterflies in particular, we know that there's probably about a 2% decline in abundance of butterflies across North America every year. And so over time that really adds up, and that's not just butterflies, it's all species. But we look at insects, particularly in our lab, and those are often times not like known by the public as what's in decline, but they're really important for maintaining ecosystem services and just should have the right to thrive. So
where do you feel your research is headed, and where do you feel like the biological station's research is headed?
Me in particular, so I study how we can like kind of have these two things coexist. How can we sustainably support humans, sustainably and equitably produce things like food, fuel, fiber through agriculture, but then also protect biodiversity and allow them the opportunity to live. And so I do this by restoring habitat within farms, or at least studying the impacts of restoration. So if we could convert some of a farm to natural habitat, can that support biodiversity, but could it also provide ecosystem services by restoring the species that provide those services, and then could then promote yield? And that's things like pollination, pollination of plants, and also decomposition, like in soil.
Do you feel like the farming community, and maybe perhaps, I don't know how much sort of communication you've had with the farming community, but do you feel like they are receptive to this kind of process?
I don't particularly work with farmers, but we have a lot of social scientists that also work in the LTER, and they are kind of studying this thing, like how likely are farmers to adopt these practices, and what it comes down to is usually policy and money. So a lot of currently like row crop agriculture could be subsidized, but why not subsidize putting like a strip of restored prairie in your farm or things like that? So we really need like a top-down approach to kind of make it feasible for farmers to do. But I think that there also is a lot of farmer-to-farmer learning. So that's more like bottom-up or like side-to-side. How can they teach each other and kind of see if one person's doing it or going against convention, then like maybe we could incorporate that further.
It's going to be all hands on deck, basically. What's fabulous is that your research is going to provide some of that evidence that, people need to see sometimes before they jump into it.
I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. In the science world, what are some of the exciting findings that you're drawing inspiration from?
So to me and to other scientists, we really see as like a method for protecting biodiversity is to diversify landscapes. This phrase like landscape diversification, and that means instead of having just like large swaths of one crop or several crops like all across the U.S. or the Midwest in the U.S. we have corn. Maybe we could have diversified landscapes like rangelands for grazing, some orchards and fruits and vegetables mixed in on a smaller scale, and that could kind of have different structures for different species to kind of move through, but also still produce the things that we need to support humans. And we're showing that that can improve yields as well. So that's how I think is a promising way to move forward, is kind of at this landscape scale, pushing policy and kind of providing incentives to both protect biodiversity but also still support humans. So this is a prairie strip. Like I had mentioned, one method of diversifying landscapes. And it's restored prairie within a farm. And it's what it looks like in the springtime. So these were just burned. So they're not really full of the flowers and grasses that they would be throughout the growing season. But this is the start of one. This one's 3 years old. It was seeded 3 years ago. And this is us trying to figure out, if we restore part of this farm, how does that affect the yield of the crop or different aspects, the greenhouse gas emissions.
This sounds like a really accessible way for farmers to implement this sort of process on their farm. Lindsay, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for showing us this area, and I hope that as as a community we can really support you in the future.
Thank you so much.